Welcome to Recovery Talk Live, an ongoing open discussion about psychological, emotional, and spiritual recovery. Our mission is to deliver the message that those who are suffering with emotional trauma can recover. And now, here are your hosts, Dawn and Terry.
Hey everybody, guess what? Dawn and Terry are going live. Woo! For real on KFNX, and we're here at the studios and we're about to go on air. We want you to join us on the journey. Shall we take them, Terry?
Let's go.
Okay, let's go. Come on down the hall. Follow me.
Uh-oh.
Follow me.
Yeah, no.
Now this is where it happens, where the recovery takes place, and we all tell Terry he's never right. You come on in, and we'll be sitting here. Dawn and Terry, take your spot. And we hope that you're going to join us every week from 3 to 4 on Thursdays. Check the KFNX program lineup where we go at it like we never have before. Anything to tell our listeners?
I think you join us because we have an awful lot of fun and we got some good stuff to talk about.
We do.
Even when Dawn's wrong.
Which happens. It happens occasionally, and in those rare times.
Happened twice today.
Well, I'm not even going there with you. Let's not argue in the promo. People do not argue in the promo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
But
join
we're
us.
happy
We
that
have
you
way
joined
too much
us.
fun.
And we have a cute little tech over here, Sarah, that just works our board like nothing else. And hey, if nothing else, we're broken, we're real. Terry's a train wreck on a good day, and some days I don't even know where I am. So join us if you're as sick as your secrets, and we know you're sick because we're sick. And we'd love to have you with us. Pay the healing forward and join us on Recovery Talk Live. Extreme.
Jim Howell from the KFNX Weather Center. It's that time of the year again. Monsoon time, afternoon and evening, gusty winds and blowing dust around the deserts. Our daytime highs throughout the weekend, 106. Jim Howell in Weather Talk, 1100 KFNX.
Currently, Midtown it's 107 degrees. Next news is in 30 minutes or when it breaks. Right here on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX.
Welcome to Recovery Talk Live, an ongoing open discussion about psychological, emotional, and spiritual recovery. Our mission is to deliver the message that those who are suffering with emotional trauma can recover. And now, here are your hosts, Dawn and Terry.
Hi, I'm Dawn Maxwell, and I am here with my co-host,
Terry Liddell.
I am a registered addiction specialist. And Terry, what are you and what do you do? People always wonder.
Well, so do I. I'm a substance abuse counselor licensed in the state of Arizona and California. And I work in the area of trauma with people and with couples and all kinds of stuff. So mostly I'm involved in the recovery of people.
And every week I just like to remind people, because of all the email I get saying, who is he? Why is he here? Including the post we got on our website, recoverytalklive.com, where we hope you will check us out, that said, how is that anger counselor so angry? Which, I hope we get to that during this hour. But we are going to talk about addiction today.
Yes, we
and
are.
the general definition of addiction. And I did look up our friends at dictionary.com. You know how I love them.
Yes, you do.
And I'm just waiting for them to sponsor us when they hear the greatness of our promotion of them.
So what's your definition of addiction?
Okay, so here, dictionary.com is saying, the state of being enslaved, and I always love that, enslaved, like you're an animal, it's out of control, to a habit or a practice or something that's psychologically or physically habit-forming, such as narcotics. They always go to that.
Okay.
But I agree with the enslavement, whether it's narcotics or food or sex, it's an enslavement. And there's that debate, the disease. What do you think about it? Is it a disease?
Is it a disease?
Controversy.
Well, yes, it is. It's a very controversial project. I'm all right. Process
that's
because
negotiable.
A chronic disease of the brain, I like that definition a lot better than a chronic disease, because it has to do with the way we think and way we act and the choices that we make along the way. So for me, an addiction is something that is mental, if you will.
Yes.
There are some aspects, absolutely, and people are probably going to disagree with some of this, but there are some physical aspects about the addiction, but really we can detox people. We can get people cleaned up. We can put them in detox programs. We can get the chemical mix out of the body. But the reason that people return to the drugs or return to their behaviors, whether it's gambling or sex or the other things that we look at, you're talking about a decision. It's a process in which, and so that's where we're looking at. We're looking at the process of an addiction to, in my case, I think there's a lot of it that has to do with the feelings. It's an addiction to a feeling that either is may be good for me or may not be good for me.
But it is such a debate in the community, and you and I as counselors and professionals know, I mean, it's a pretty equal divide if this is a disease or a choice. If you talk, I always, on all of our shows, I'm the codependent enabler queen on Wikipedia. There's me with the crown,
Yes, it
and
is.
there's Angry You, Addict King. So I'm always saying,
Well, that hurt.
I'm just speaking the truth. That's what we don't get paid for. So what I'm saying is, in this, it's always the codependent thinking, this person is ruining our lives, and then there's the addict who's really in pain. And it's just, in my opinion, addiction affects the whole family. Everybody needs help.
Well, the addiction is never a personal thing. It's always,
Interesting.
yeah, it's always involved other people in our life, because most of us, the vast majority of people, have somebody that cares about them. Right?
Yes.
And not just an individual. Often in families, in my life, the process of this whole thing was that we have a caring group of people that care about us. Now, what do you do with that?
What do you do with that? Because a lot of people lose that as a result of the addiction.
Okay, so if I lose my family, what do I do? Because those are the people that cared about me. But those people that care about me, most often are trying to do what with me?
They're trying to love you, help you, and generally, I can speak for family members, they're trying to fix you. Because they are so desperate, and oftentimes, and I'm speaking for myself and all the other codependents, desperately seeking their own identity from you.
Well, if I look at me, I grew up in an alcoholic house.
Yes.
And so the way I learned to deal with things was drink.
You are repeating a behavior that you saw.
Yeah, I was trained fairly well.
Right.
And it worked. So at a very young age, I learned that how I medicate my feelings, my emotions, and the disappointments that I have in my family and the people that are around me is I drink and I feel better for a while.
Yet not everybody goes that way. Also being raised with that around me and my family.
Okay.
I mean, I tried it out for a while, wasn't really working for me. I made a different choice. I have what our mutual friend Butch Patrick calls, my burning bush moment.
Right.
And then went the other way. So not everybody, but then my other way was extreme codependency. So I would say it's a transfer addiction.
So the addiction in many ways is, we go back to my belief system says it's about a feeling. I need to do something with this feeling. I don't like it. I want to change it. I want to alter it. And the vehicle that I use, whatever it is, drugs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, gambling, whatever those things are, is an attempt for me to find some kind of stabilization in my life, because I feel like I'm out of control most of the time.
Right, and usually you or the using person is, because surrounding addiction is usually a lot of drama. But let me ask you this, as somebody who's been there and walked the journey from somebody, you're really representing everybody else who cares and loves the person. When you're in that moment, because I think a lot of people wonder this, and you're hurting. You're hurting and you're going to create havoc and destruction. And what is that thought? When you say, I'm going to lose my family if I do this again, but I'm going to do this again. And you are listening to Recovery Talk Live here on KFNX, and we would like to know that answer.
Right now?
Right now.
Right now, you want me to give you that answer?
I'm just curious, in that moment when you're about to know, this is the last time my significant other set the boundary.
The question that we're dealing with at that moment is, okay, how do I not do this? I know how to do this, and in many ways, I don't know how not to do this.
Are you cognitively thinking at that time, if I take
Usually
this drink,
not.
I'll lose my wife?
Usually
or
not.
my husband? Or
It's not, I understand it, but I don't really understand it. I know the words have been used. I've heard that before. Most of the time when we are in our addiction, if you will, how many times has somebody told me that I'm not going to put up with you anymore? This is it. This is the last time. And so we get to a place in which I don't believe you anymore.
you don't believe me, the codependent, saying
That you're actually going
screwing
to
me
leave
up?
me.
Okay.
Is this really the last time? Because
Okay,
the last.
wow, I'm getting wound up here. Okay, I
Okay.
gotta stand up, I have to
Okay.
stretch. Colin's fanning me, Colin, our producer, in the studio with us today. As the family member who has sacrificed my sanity, my happinness, my children, and I love you as the family member, all I want is your sobriety and wellness. What is going on in your brain that you're saying I'm choosing the booze instead of the children?
Well, you're at that moment. You just asked me, did I cognitively, with wise evaluation process available to me,
Yes.
go through all the steps, evaluate everything, and then make a conscious decision to do something? That's not happening.
Okay, but relapse is a sober choice. So I'm telling you the view. we're thinking, we the codependents.
Yeah, are we moving from addiction to relapse?
Well, okay, let's say you've never, when you're in a sober mode, and really we want to know what our listeners think about this, and you can see us, you can please give us your comments on recoverytalklive.com. Whatever you think, if you agree with Terry, who's always wrong, me, who's always right, we want to know what you think. What I'm asking is, you're sober when you make that decision to use again. Maybe you haven't relapsed, maybe you've never been sober.
Okay, my belief system goes like this. I can stop drinking, using, gambling, whatever. I can stop the behavior, but until I change the belief systems that drive me, I'm probably going to go back because I don't know how not to. So the recovery journey is one of learning new belief systems, new behaviors, new coping mechanisms, a new process to deal with those emotions that come up, because that's called life.
So you're talking about actually some type of an intervention to stop the way you're thinking.
So if I change the way I'm thinking, do I have an opportunity to change the way I behave?
Absolutely you do. We
Okay.
all do. We all have a choice.
Okay.
And we're all one bad choice away from a terrible decision and ruining our lives. All of us. I don't care where you are.
Okay, so if I'm only one bad choice away, what's going to prevent me from making a bad choice really becomes the question.
Well, as we wrap up and we're getting ready to go to the next segment, I think we need to talk about bottoming out and what that's going to look like for people, and discuss that, and what that also looks like as a family member to watch your loved one bottom out.
Well, I think it's a good question, and I think that's something we can certainly address. So let's see what happens in the next segment.
Would you agree that everybody bottoms out, and some people do and some people don't?
Yes, and bottoming out can include being dead.
Yeah, and sometimes being dead is somebody's bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's it.
Like you visit them in the grave. But it's not like that for everyone. We do want you to visit us at recoverytalklive.com. And this is Dawn and Terry, and we'll be back right after the break.
She's a sucker.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell of the
She
domestic
doesn't-
litigation firm Cordell & Cordell. Here are a few quick divorce tips that we provide our clients.
Why?
Number
It just
one,
was- I
don't
thought
move
the
out of
movie
your
was too
house
fast.
just because your wife tells you to. Remember,
freaking
If you
out,
listen to
little
those
Sarah?
guys,
And
we're
number
talking
two,
slow.
don't blow
Really?
through the financial
Guys,
statements that
no,
you
that was
report.
perfect.
Really?
You sounded great. Yeah, but
They often
make sure you just stay in front of the mic.
Okay.
No more than this far.
The
Yeah,
Okay.
just because,
No,
now if you
no
want
more
to see
than that.
Terry, you can just lower this a little bit, but yeah, because when you tend to sway, it takes your pitch away and it just gets, it's a
Okay,
little
I didn't
soft.
realize it. So how should I just keep like this?
You're one of the two.
You gotta keep your mouth on the mic.
Right on the
Yeah.
mic. Okay, right there.
Very
Okay.
good.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to get right on it.
Okay. Topically,
So
energy-wise.
is
and
this the time you tell us we're doing wonderful even though we're not?
You're doing fine.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know, I don't
Well,
understand.
Matt
You
tells
guys
the
have done
truth.
this for a while, just
Good
different
energy.
forms.
Matt's
Different
different
forms.
I'm sorry, Robert, I'm sorry.
I've only had a chance to listen for a couple minutes in and out.
I
I'm working on
listen,
so
you
much
guys are
stuff.
fine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Energy level.
Well, we want to be better than fine. We want to be like magnificent.
We figure by the third
Well,
segment,
that's
we go
up
on
to you
blood
guys,
here.
but your content is great.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's
Not
great.
talking too fast.
indicators.
Sarah, is Sarah okay over there? I don't know. if
Do
she
you
was
remember the
concerned.
people in front of us talk?
right.
They make us look slow.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. All right.
You can talk fast and slow,
Okay.
depending upon what the topic
Well, I
is.
get so wound up on some of it, because this is very personal to
Get
me.
wound up.
Yeah, we
Get
do.
wound up.
But I'll try.
Get wound up, but
Shall I-
don't like stumble and spit over yourself.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
People can't understand.
Okay,
I'm Joe
thank you,
LaPresca,
Robert.
President of Arlington Capital Management. Our clients have found that a proactive strategy helps build their wealth during bull markets and
Okay,
preserve
every
it
time.
What
during
happens on
bear
the mic
markets.
stays on the mics.
Our unique
Yeah.
PAS
Walk out of the
investment
room.
model tells us when to
No,
buy,
I thought we
when to
had
own, and when
a,
to
no,
sell.
no, we had
Yeah,
a
it's all
good
done. It's
connection.
done. There's no recall.
I felt like we went to really good places, like people are listening to this, the ones, maybe
We don't
two
know who's listening.
listeners.
There might be 10 people listening. There might be
Those 10 people, our 10
Don't
listeners
snort. Don't snort. Snort's
thought,
not good.
our 10
That's a
listeners,
giveaway. Just so you know.
you know what, you can't be passionate unless you've walked it like that.
Every day's a holiday
You
at
know,
Healthy
you can't
Habit
be a
Health Food
forever
Store,
sober accountant with no addicts in
6029
your
North
family.
7th
We
Street.
could say that
Tune
on
in
here.
to Healthy House Call discussing the
John,
latest
don't be afraid to go there.
breakthroughs of integrative
Go there.
medicine. Tune in Monday through
Just
Friday,
remember.
9 to 10 a.m.
Here's the thing, and I'm not being a smart ass when I say this. Go wherever you want to go, because I'll pull you
Discover
out.
world-class physicians, medical researchers,
We just,
Hollywood
there's
celebrities,
just, I know that the
professional
passion
athletes,
of the
and
broken family
testimonials
member,
from our
and those are the
patients
people
and
saying.
Let's talk about that,
Call
because
602
part of addiction is broken
266
families.
1000.
So let's
It
just
is.
keep walking down that street.
I'm gonna go there, we need to go into what the bottom looks like a little bit, and then I have a little thing that will bring the codependents to stay tuned.
Okay, so, yeah, because we're talking about codependence in many
So
ways.
what's,
'Cause
so what's,
you
so
brought,
what are you gonna, what's the next?
So we're gonna come back.
so we're going to
And
talk
I'm
about
gonna
bottoming
talk
out, and then
about
she's going to go, and let's talk about codependence in the next
Just
segment.
for a minute, and then we're gonna go into codependency, and then I've got a little personal thing I'm gonna say about it. And I said it in the pharmacy, getting my son's prescription.
Come on.
We are back to Recovery Talk Live with Don Maxwell and my co-host.
Terry Liddell.
And welcome back to Recovery Talk Live. You can visit us always at recoverytalklive.com. And please like us on Facebook. We have no friends. We have 10 people who like us, and we are desperate. We are happy to have you go to Facebook and say, you are not as crazy as we think. Or you know what, you guys are nuts, but I'm going to like you anyway because of your desperation.
Those are the 10 people I paid, so just so you know.
Terry always talks about our 10 listeners. So props to those 10
Yes.
people that liked us on
So-
Facebook. But we're talking about bottoming out. And you were going
Right.
to share, Terry, what that looks like. If you're just joining us, you are listening to us on KFNX, and we are Dawn and Terry. This is Recovery Talk Live, and we're talking about what it looks like to hit bottom as an addict.
The idea of hitting a bottom is the day you decide you're going to change or you're dead. Those are the two options that we have available to us.
Okay, so take me into your brain. I know it's frightening. I know there's cobwebs.
I do not go in here alone.
Don't go, and no one should go there alone.
Okay, so-
no one.
Yes,
There's
nobody should go in this
Sarah's
bed alone.
hiding behind the desk
Yes.
over there, she's the control booth, because she's afraid.
Yes, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
So the idea of bottoming out is you come to a place where this just doesn't make any sense anymore.
Okay, so you're
And-
cognitively thinking
No, I didn't say that.
Okay,
What happens to us, some of us end up being loaded into a vehicle of some sort and transferred to a medical center
Seen
sometimes. Some of us really wake up in a place that we don't recognize anymore. Some of us,
treated that.
yeah, there's all kinds of things. There's treatment programs, there's recovery programs, there's all kinds of different ways. But bottom line, ultimately, the responsibility is mine to decide I'm going to do something differently.
And you have to make that conscious choice.
I have to make a conscious choice. Now, the more sober, the less impaired I am by the drugs, alcohol, or the addictions, or the other things, I have a much better chance of making a decision that'll stick.
Right.
So the idea of me finding my way to a place where I can now start a journey that is very different than my previous one is the concept of bottoming out. Now, the other option, unfortunately, is dead. You quit because you're dead.
Right.
And the sad part is that happens way too many times.
Way too
Everybody that we're talking to, I think, on the radio right now, recognizes or have somebody in their immediate knowledge base, or friend base, that's had somebody who's OD'd, who's died in a car wreck because they were drunk, who has,
Right.
So we're talking about something that's not foreign. It's not disconnected from most everybody here. The law of averages says somebody who died or is seriously impaired by some form of substance.
And like you, I mean, I've had clients that have flatlined, they brought them back, and they go use again.
Of
And
course.
they're in treatment for the 5th and 6th time. And it's like, God's given you another chance, sister, brother, whatever. Take a clue. And they keep doing it till they don't make it. So there's just,
Well,
It's a broken brain.
Yeah, it is. It's a broken brain, but
Yeah.
it's a pattern that's been developed, and somehow, some way, something, there has to be an intervention process. And what that intervention process is, we don't have one that works, period. Everybody's got their own.
it's individual.
Some of it, yeah, it's absolutely individual.
It's very individual.
We don't quit trying, though.
No, you can't quit trying.
Yeah, we never quit trying. I don't know what stops people. I don't know, my sobriety, I got 24 years. I drank enough alcohol and put enough pills in my body to be dead many times over. I've gotten behind the wheel of a car, and there's parts of my life I don't remember.
Right.
So why am I here? I think it's God's grace. But the idea is that it took me to a place in which I finally said, enough's enough. And there was no switch, there wasn't magic, the heavens didn't part, a beam of light didn't come down.
You just got there.
I got there, and one day it was like, okay, I got to figure out how to do this, because this is not working for me anymore.
I have to respect you for that, because so many people don't. and you lost it all and got it all back. So I just think that's admirable as much as we go at it. But I have to bring up the family members, because what I think is really tricky about addiction, and I'm guilty of this myself and lost, a lot because of this faulty thinking, is that, whoever the qualifier, the addict is in my life, I'm thinking you're the blame. You ruined my life without looking at myself.
Yeah,
it's all your fault.
Yeah, of course it is.
And the truth is, everybody needs treatment. The recent statistic is that there are 20 million addicts in this country, affecting 80 million family members. That's 80 million codependent people thinking that person's ruining my life. And what I realize, and I'm working on a manuscript, it's called View from the Curb, and what this is when you are living with somebody who's dual diagnosis, they have maybe a psychiatric disorder and an addiction, or just an addiction, or one or the other, and you're with that person, your life looks like 5150s, that means 72-hour holds in California, that you're looking at arrest, you're looking at jail, you're looking at hospitalizations. And every time this happens, I liken it to an accident scene where you see there's a car crash and there's an ambulance, paramedics, fire trucks, and there's always a scene around the incident of the addict, and nobody takes a second to look over their shoulder and see who's sitting on the curb, where there's friends, family members, spouses, children, and they're dying, and they're untreated.
Look at what you're saying, though.
They're untreated.
Well, yes and no. Okay, what you said was very true. Because the addict or the alcoholic let's stick with the person who's got the addiction. So we'll just cover all of them. So if somebody's got an addiction, the impact on the family is horrendous. I was working for an agency about 15 years ago, I guess it was, and we were having a discussion one night, and all the counselors were sitting around, and we were talking about the different impact on people's lives based on whatever their choice was. So we had people with drugs, and we had people with alcohol, and we had people with addictions of gambling and sex and shopping. And I mean, we were trying to just see. And what was interesting is if you put your hand over the addiction, the consequence in the family was almost identical.
Well,
now, I want you to think about that. Now, so we have a group of people here who are used to handling the junk. They're used to taking care of stuff. So this sounds strange, but the family looks fairly normal because they've learned to adapt to the addict or the alcoholic or the addiction person, and people don't pay attention to it because they've learned to function in the dysfunction.
But what you're really just talking about is a broken family system.
Of course.
And having grown up in this myself and been a part of that, I always liken it, if I'm doing groups or something, to a mobile, the children's mobile that hangs above a bed, and everything's balanced. And then you have the one person who falls out, we'll call that person the addict. Let's say you cut off a piece of the mobile or it's impaired, everything's off balance. All the other pieces, the family members, are reaching toward that broken piece, assuming roles they wouldn't normally assume to try to compensate for that and equalize thing. And hence, codependency, this works. This is exactly what happens. So you can be raised in an addict home, be the codependent, not be a user, but you see that one person fall out, so maybe you're the child being the parent, and you're reaching to equalize the family. And say you grow up never using, then what happens is you just marry into a family where that happens, where there's a broken mobile and you're trying to reattach your piece. And equalize it. Because we can't focus always on the addict. Remember, there's only 20 million of you, there's 80 million of us, and we need help.
Okay. But if now you're onto something here, and I like this idea.
No, well,
Okay.
finally.
Yeah, finally.
But I'm not going to let you just speak for the
I'm tired
addict.
of hearing you, lady. So here's
when
the
the
deal.
family is hurting equally, Terry.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Back up.
Don't
back
do
up.
victim,
Back up.
I'm the addict to me.
Back up.
Okay.
The
For a
families.
minute. This is Recovery Talk Live anyway. Visit us on recoverytalklive.com and tell us how much you disagree with Terry or how much you agree with Dawn. Go ahead, Terry.
Oh, that's cold.
I
Now,
know.
here's the thing.
You can say it too.
We're working here. The idea is that the family unit has learned, go back to your mobile, the family unit has learned how to deal with the addict.
Good, the mobile, huh?
Okay?
You can see it. Yeah.
I can. Now, so the addict, and let's take an addict and we're going to fix him. Let's say for the sake of discussion here, the addict is willing to go into treatment, or they're willing to do something. So unless the family unit changes, the addict's going to go out, get fixed, come back, and then re-establish his behavior patterns because the family may not let him change.
I agree. I agree that we get into, as family members, the fix-it mode, and when we come back from our next break, we'll go into it further. We get into that, it becomes our identity. And even in the definition of codependency, it says a relationship in which one person is physically or psychologically addicted to another person. And I am That's what codependency is, and it gets so bad in your thinking that you actually go from denial to delusion, thinking what's happening in front of you isn't really happening.
So
you
as a
lose
good
your own
addict,
mind.
as a good alcoholic, as a good addiction person, I could sell you a bill of goods, and you buy it.
I'm going to agree with you, and I hope Sarah and Colin don't fall off their chairs because
What?
this is different. I'm going to agree with you in the fact that if you are an addict and you've come out of treatment and your family system hasn't changed, you're just bound to relapse, and we're helping you get there. I'm going to agree with you now. Now the airways probably have shut down.
You agree with me?
I know it's never happened. Colin, get oxygen for the producer, and we have my
Okay.
best friend Vivian in the studio today. Yes, I agree. I agree with you because I've had to own it myself. And
Okay.
so any of the codependent listeners out there, again, recoverytalklive.com, we want to know what you're thinking. And let's talk about this further after the break because I'm siding with you for the first time saying we're as sick as you, Terry. And you're pretty sick. And we're just as sick. We're right there with you. So, I think we have a milestone on this. And let's talk more about that after a break. This is Recovery Talk Live with Dawn and Terry.
Okay, you guys got that. She agreed with you. You got that?
Coverage.
That was
unreal. Round the clock. News. Jim Howell on
How are we doing, Sarah?
And the KFNX traffic team. Independent
Sarah's
Talk.
gone.
1100
Okay.
KFNX.
Arizona
Feedback,
News
people?
Radio. Phoenix police
Keep it-
are currently
keep it going,
investigating
keep it
a
going.
possible double
We never
homicide
agreed.
Don't let
of
up.
the bodies of an
Okay.
elderly couple
We're
found in
relentless.
their North Phoenix home earlier this morning. A sad ending to what started as
I
a
know.
family
I wanted to get some new
target shooting
pictures like that.
yesterday.
That's one we took on
A
our
9-year-old boy
Yeah.
was accidentally
first
hit
day.
in the neck
That,
by a
remember that
bullet
because we
ricocheting.
did the radio
He
show
died
and we
this
decided to
morning.
make it a
We received an
TV
update
show.
this morning.
Yeah.
So we took all those
Child
We took
pictures.
all those
was at a
pictures.
hospital right around 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Phoenix Children's
What are you guys
Hospital.
thinking? Are you tracking?
Politicians
What
are getting on the bandwagon.
You
as
have no idea.
thousands
Like I
of
said, we got 10
undocumented
listeners.
Anybody who was listening
American
was liking it,
youngsters
though.
are crossing the border
Yeah, I'm
into
not
the
in
There's
denial that
10,
it's anybody who was
we have
listening.
10 listeners, so we have to appeal to our 10 listeners.
Supervisors
it's not there
member
with our 10
Mary
listeners.
Rose Wilcox.
Mr. President, you cannot rush this. You cannot have Border Patrol agents making decisions who gets deported and who does not. We must
Okay.
allow these children due process.
Bob Baker,
I'm counting her
Arizona
fingers. I
News
like that she
Radio.
does 10, 9,
Yes.
7.
Yes.
So I try not, like he
When she
said,
holds up all 10,
Yeah,
she's
I like
counting these
that.
10 and she's counting
because
down.
like Matt said, we don't want to waste any of our airtime.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go over, but I like that if you would do that when we're home
Yeah,
for the last
Uh-huh,
10, so we can use all our airtime.
sure. You got it.
Yeah. Is there anything telling us where we are? Oh, she's reading news.
Yeah. We have another couple more minutes.
Oh, we're at the bottom of the hour,
Yeah,
so
which
this
is
is
the
the longer
longer
break.
one, yeah.
This is satellite feed from CNN.
Yeah. She should be doing traffic.
So you
Jim
like
Howell
it?
from the KFNX Weather Center. It's that time of the year again,
Okay.
monsoon
What
time,
are you saying?
afternoon and
You're doing
evening,
great.
gusty winds and blowing dust around the
I
deserts. Our
would say
daytime
if there
highs
was
throughout the
any
weekend,
one just
106.
tiny little
Jim
thing I
Howell,
would say,
Independent Talk,
just,
1100
don't
KFNX.
get stuck.
Currently, Midtown is
Don't get stuck
107
modeling.
degrees. Next
Yeah,
news in
yeah.
30 minutes
Too
or
many
when it
stories.
breaks.
Right.
Right here on
Like when you're
Independent
doing your
Talk,
definition, I
1100
didn't want to interrupt you, but we
KFNX.
have to. That's
You
what
each
we
did
do.
it once.
Yeah,
so
we
just
did.
don't-
I did too.
don't-
It's her fault.
Yeah.
We have to volley.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Bruce Fabrizio.
I mean, for, like, what is
Okay,
intention?
I will rudely interrupt her on a regular basis.
Well, no, we don't want to do that because we do want to
Yeah.
finish a thought, because
Yeah.
people do listen to that, and I know I get frustrated if I'm
But you
listening.
never listen, you never have.
But see, I thought the part that you were saying about what happens in the brain, every family member wants to know what makes that person think about it. People want to know that, so I thought that was important.
Well, we can finish, we can go, we
Okay,
can
so when
circle
we come back
back.
for everyone.
We're gonna go back into the sick family, and then I have a couple things, and then Terry will say something.
Get 5 quarts of
couple
Pennzoil
one-liners.
And we
conventional
can,
motor
and
After
we
I
can circle
shamelessly
back and
plug
pick
our
up some of
oil filter for
the
just
brain chemistry, or
$22.99.
not brain
Upgrade to
chemistry, but some of the
Pennzoil High
thinking
Mileage
process.
Oil and a CarQuest Red Filter for
Fourth
$25.99.
quarter we wrap
Or
up.
5 quarts of
Oh, yeah, we
Pennzoil
can
Platinum Full
kind of
Synthetic Oil and a
round
Lush
up.
Premium
Yeah.
Plus Oil Filter for
So
here's the deal.
$32.99. Now
You
through
know,
August
here's the
30th
deal.
at
You know, Don's
participating
wrong and I'm
CarQuest
right,
Auto
so-
Parts locations.
So that's what just happened.
No, only I get to say that.
The revolution returns on Independent Talk 1100 KFNX. Dr. Kim is back with Dwayne Bluestein on Whisper Out
Codependence,
Loud
right?
Entrepreneur
Yeah, I got
Talk Show. Learn the right way
That's
to
her
reach
story.
entrepreneurial
I'm following her.
success
I have no idea where she's
Yeah, but we found a good point where, because I finally, I have to tell you, when we started the show, I didn't agree that we were really sick. You know, now that I've grown,
you know what?
I agree it's a different sickness.
I make.
You know.
And I think we could spend a little more time
I've
on
been a
this one
realtor
because
for
I
32
think
years.
it's the deal.
There's people mad if any of our 10 listeners are hitting the brakes and honking their horns saying it's not me, it's him, it's her.
I've known him about 20 years. He's the best. Never met anybody that's more on their game and more willing to be of service. Because, you know, anybody can get anything done anywhere, but when somebody's willing to go the extra mile, and I've seen him do it time and again, he's just the best. I love him as a human being and as a roofer. He's just great.
Oh, you think?
Somebody else tells you you need this, that, the other thing,
that
to do it a different way and have it be more economical, he will for you.
Get your roof fixed right the first time and get it fixed before monsoon season. Call Jack the Roofer.
Do you realize how much I have these broad spaces of time that she doesn't know me?
996
And there's like broad spaces of time that I don't have to do.
Obamacare can crush you. Yes, you heard
No,
me right.
no, no,
This
no,
is Steve
because we
Sanchez,
have, like-
and for a limited time, I'm giving
I
away
will
the
take
3
he-
critical secrets of
he
Obamacare and how to
invites us
survive
to
with
his
little-known loopholes
showroom
that could potentially save you
once every
thousands of
6 to 8
dollars on
months.
taxes.
Okay.
Call right now,
Once in 6 to 8 months.
1-877-983-SAVE,
And then
ask for
I
my
don't have
free
to put up with it for
Obamacare
this long period
protection
of time.
package with book and
And then I have
CD.
this
That's
concentrated moment. But this is like
1-877-983-SAVE,
every week I gotta do this.
1-877-983-7233,
This is hard on me.
and take back your financial future
Jerry
today.
just says, take me
Your
with you, take us.
financial
And then when I
plan
take
with
him, he's like,
Wayne
what are you doing? I
Candace
said, you
every
wanted
Tuesday
to
at
come.
noon. Wayne Candace is best known
I
as
lied.
the bugle
Yes.
boy who serenades
I
his
lied.
audience and provides informative strategies for retirement and financial goal planning. Your financial plan.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk Live. This is Dawn Maxwell, registered addiction specialist, with my co-host, Mr. Terry Liddell,
Good morning.
and the
Good
substance
afternoon.
abuse
Good evening.
counselor. Good to everybody. We were talking about that I finally, and do please visit us at recoverytalklive.com. Tell us all hate mail from the addicts to Terry, all love mail from the codependents to Dawn. And there's a contact page from us, and we really do want to hear what you're thinking. And again, we only have 10 friends on Facebook, and if we could get to 20 today, then, well, I don't even know, we'll just have to have a celebration at some kind of funky restaurant tonight. So
Well, I had to pay the 10, so just so you know.
oh, Lord. Okay,
yeah.
maybe Sarah and Colin and Vivian will like us.
Yeah,
But
well,
we were talking about the family, you and I agreeing for the first time in a lifetime
It's
that
true.
the family members are just as sick as the addicts. And Terry, I mean, we've been together a long time, and I actually just got to this point myself, realizing what a part I've had in the qualifiers, the addicts in my life, and my sick need to fix them. I didn't even realize that.
So you're starting to understand the difference between healthy and unhealthy?
Well, I've gotten that at many levels over my many years in recovery myself.
Okay.
But I've reached a new level of awareness,
Okay.
if you will, in
Well,
the process.
The idea then that you're talking is that if the family is as sick as the family is,
Yes.
then the addict isn't just the only sick one, is pretty interesting revelation here.
But it comes in two ways. Either you've come from that family of origin, and like we talked about in the previous segment, you came from the broken mobile and you attached yourself to a broken family, or you can be a normie, that just meaning a person that doesn't have this background, and you just got sick in the relationship, not knowing what was going on, because when you're living with it and you don't understand it, it does blindside you. It blindsides you. You don't know what's happening.
So then your level of awareness is what we're really talking about. That the more aware I am of a healthy family, if you will, or an unhealthy family, which means I have to kind of get out and see what a healthy family looks like and try to model those kinds of behaviors.
Well, and it's also, and I'm just speaking, all you wonderful codependents who don't even know you're there yet. First of all, you're only as sick as your secrets, and I said that to somebody once, and they said, well, then I'm going to die. And that's how many secrets we even keep as codependents. And I'm saying you got to look at the fact that, are you at the point that you're working harder than the addict in your life?
Okay, now if you're working harder than the addict in your life, is that healthy either?
No, it's not. That's a
so
level
where's
of
the balance?
awareness.
So if we're talking about balance, because codependency is out of balance.
Codependency is sick. It's an addiction.
Okay, so how do we want to be healthy people?
Yes.
How do we figure out how to handle those issues? How do we figure out?
I can't speak. You speak for the broken addict brain, and I'm speaking for the faulty, funky, codependent brain here on recoverytalklive.com. Please visit us. Like us, we have no friends. For the faulty brain, I'm telling you, and it's just even painful for me personally to go be so real and admit this. I have needed the qualifier addicts in my life to tell me I'm okay. So if
Okay,
you're
so
not
then-
okay, addict, I'm
So
not
if I
okay.
come along and I got 24 years of sobriety,
Right.
I've worked on my recovery journey. Generally speaking, people think I'm fairly healthy. I kind of like me most of the time. So when I say to you,
Most of the time, yeah.
yeah, most of the time. When I say to you, I think you're pretty amazing. I appreciate you. That's why I've hung out with you for several years and we've had other shows together. It's like, why is that hard for you?
If it's you, my colleague, telling me that, I can receive it. If it's you, my qualifier loved one in my family, I'm going to hold on to that 1 minute of validation, milk it as long as I can, do anything I can to dance around you and please you for that one little
So
thread.
you're looking for my recognition, stamp of approval, and you will do what for it?
In a broken, dysfunctional family system, I will cash everything out, sell it, put you in rehab, try to make you love me, please you, just try to make you okay so I can be okay. When in reality, the healthy thing to do is healthy detachment and say, hey,
So are you,
you have a right to
talking,
choose.
Are you talking about the fact that you care about somebody enough to not buy their, co-sign their BS?
yeah, but you don't see it that way when you're in the sick system. When
Okay.
you're in the sick system, there's not a line. The enmeshment is so deep, there's not a line between you and the addict.
So you said earlier when we were talking about the fact of what's an addiction. An
Yes.
addiction is you have a desire to go do something that even though you know it's not healthy for you.
Yes, that's why codependency is correctly at dictionary.com defined. And I like that they updated this from the last time you and I have talked about it. They had it as a noun and I was all angry. Now they've actually recognized it as it is an addiction to another person. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody who's gone through withdrawal, total withdrawal from another
Okay.
person, hearing that person's voice, I get a fix and I can't imagine. I think it's probably like somebody shooting some drug when they just get that calm, ooh, I'm okay. You get that as a codependent.
The concept of the emotions here, the fact that when I drank or when I used or when I was doing the things I do, the idea was for me to feel better. You just said to me, if I understand you,
Yes.
you said to me that when that other person that I validated, the person that I've given that much power in my life, so to speak.
Right, that's what happened, yeah. That's
Wow,
what happens to
okay.
codependents. We give them the power. We don't even know who we are at the end of the day. It's like, who the heck am I? I don't know what I like. I don't know what I do. And I have, well, and that's my niche, like you work with the addicts and other thing. My niche in our, because we both are practicing.
Now, here's an interesting question then. How many people are codependent?
Well, according to the recent U.S. statistics, 80 million affected by 20
Okay.
million. And I bet the substance abuse using addicts are codependent to a degree as well.
My opinion, there isn't a person in the world that's not codependent.
Yeah, but there's the delusional level, and
Yeah,
then
well,
there's
I didn't say delusional.
a
I
little
said
bit,
because we all have our codependence. Most people who care about somebody else want that person to validate them. So, at what level is that codependent, or is that healthy? So, and I think that what we're talking about here, and I think your point, I hope your point is, because I'd like to be twice right.
No, I don't know, Terry.
No, it's a little
There's,
over the top. Okay.
earthquakes going
Right.
on, and maybe
but
I don't
the
know.
validation of a person is what you're after.
That codependent wants, yes.
The
but
validation of you being the person.
Usually of the qualifier who's the addict, and we want to fix you. We want to fix you. We want
What's
to
wrong
make
with
you
me?
okay. Well, you're pretty messed up. I mean, we've established that.
Who's established? I think I'm pretty not okay.
Yeah, but that's why you
didn't come out
keep using.
You got me going here.
You, the
Okay,
addict,
girl.
think you're okay, and you're a
Right.
victim, always a victim, addict mentality. Somebody screwed me over, and if it wasn't, Doris, Cynthia, or Bob, it's Sue, Barry, and Mo, and no offense to anybody with that name, because you always have to have somebody to blame. Where the addict stereotypically takes no responsibility, the codependent will take it all for everyone, equally so.
Okay, so then the process here of codependency, if we're talking about being responsible for yourself, what does that look like to you now?
Well, to a healthy person, it's detachment. It's I saw somebody in a meeting once put their hand up, their palm to their face, and say, "I can only control on what's on this side of my palm facing me, and that's only you." And detachment, it's like sobering up for a codependent, and that's just saying, "Hey, like if you were my qualifier, I would say, Terry, if you want to know where every liquor store is within a mile radius of this studio, you."
Oh, I already know that.
Yeah, I know you do because you know
that's
that
not a
wherever
problem.
we are.
I counted them growing up
I'm
here.
sure you did. But and then as the healthy thing as a codependent, I say, hey, that sucks, but you have a right to think that, and you have a right to
So
go
let's
do it.
no, wait a minute. I like this. Okay, so
Okay.
if you decide that you're okay, regardless of my opinion of you,
Right.
is that healthy?
It's healthy for me. That's what my recovery looks like as a codependent.
So the more you think you're okay, the more you can accept the fact that maybe your value is in you, not in somebody else.
Right.
You've got a better shot at it.
Yes, and you know how we get that? The same, this is where we come together, and if we agree twice,
Careful.
the studio could
Careful.
part. Is that when,
Oh, my
in
gosh.
your camp, as the addict, and as my camp as the family member, we're all getting our validation and our worth from our higher power.
I like
And
that.
what that is.
Okay, so if,
That's a commonality. Do we have
Okay,
two?
so
Because
this is scary.
I don't
This is
know.
scary.
The hemispheres, atmospheres, I'm
we've
not
been
cosmic,
together
but
too long.
something's
wrong.
happening.
Yeah,
I
that's
know.
right.
We
So
may
let's
never
look
have
at it
this
then.
again.
So step number one of the 12 steps of recovery in my journey is that I'm powerless and my life's unmanageable.
Yes, your life has always been unmanageable. You just keep showing up, and mine has been sick too.
Yeah,
But
yours been powerless and yours have been unmanageable.
But you, the addict, have to stop blaming the other people and take ownership. And I, the codependent, have to say, hands off. You can ruin your life if you want. Tragic, sad, but you have a right to choose it.
Ooh,
But you have to stop
this is scary.
blaming. We
Okay,
both
so
have
that's
to.
the same thing with me saying if I choose to stop drinking, it's not because of anybody else. I need to take responsibility for me. You just
Right.
said you're taking responsibility for you and letting the other person go.
I'm taking responsibility.
Holy smoke!
But then
this is healthy.
Now, I'm scaring us. We're all scared.
Something's wrong here.
You know, somebody's going to defibrillate Colin. So,
All right.
Okay, we're going to have to talk about this further when we come back, and we're going to talk about the ways that codependent family members numb out, because we don't go to substance abuse because we don't want to be labeled. But when we come back, we're going to go to those places and see where they go. And you're listening to Recovery Talk Live. Visit us at recoverytalklive.com, and like us on Facebook. We have no friends. See you after the break.
That was fun.
America is truly
That was fun.
exceptional, and she deserves to be
That was
defended
fun.
in the face
We
of
can
a
get after
rogue
that
and
one.
runaway government.
I have to be
As
in the same
respecters
room
of
with him
freedom,
and
we
make
must
eye
commit
contact,
to
'cause that's how
raising
our
the
chemistry
banner of
works.
freedom for all to
Like, I
see.
couldn't do this
Hi,
in
this
a
is
separate
Shane Krauser, the
on the
director of the
phone.
American Academy for
No, we're gonna work it
Constitutional
out. Colin's gonna
Education.
get all this.
Oh, no,
Inspire
we're
your
going
group
to
and
his
give them the
place to do
tools
it.
and
Yeah.
It's
education
all
to
your
move
fault.
this message
We
forward.
can't.
Schedule us to speak at your next event by visiting us at
Terry, I don't think we have room for guests on
aafce.com.
our show because
America's
we're just
best
there's
days
no time
are
for
yet to
them.
come. That's aafce.com.
What do you think?
Here's what Sandy Barrett, a realtor here in the
Well, see,
Valley.
you guys are, but here's the
years
other side of the coin. You guys are like
Jack the
hugely
Roofer.
prejudiced.
You know what? He is the only
And these guys are
call
trying,
I
they'll tell us
make
whether,
when I
whenever
have a
we
roof
think, they
issue.
think we need to
He
hear
is
it.
Yeah, we wanna hear it.
He is
Sarah,
We need to find somebody
Robert.
who
I've known
doesn't
him about
really
20
care.
years. He's
No,
the
that's why we
Get
need
your
Sarah and
roof
Robert
fixed
and
right
Chet
the
and
first
people to
time
tell
and get
us
it fixed
for real.
before monsoon
Yeah.
season.
We
Call
want
Jack the
feedback.
Roofer, 602-996-7443. That's 602-996-7443.
Right. Robert told us that.
Got the call to
Yeah.
join the service. And
No, Robert told me that. That's what he told me in my training. That's what he said. Yeah.
I never thought that I would have PTSD. I thought that I had enough coping skills.
I don't think anybody who goes.
So the summary of this thing should be that it's our choice, it's our journey of recovery, it's our responsibility.
Yeah, but we still have to put something fresh, because remember, this is our fourth show, so we still have to have a beginning, middle, you know. We still have to, we can't just summarize and say, we have to have fresh stuff. So I'm gonna throw a couple.
Did I say that?
I'm gonna throw a
That's the
couple.
last thing.
I'm gonna throw a couple.
Anger,
We have to remember to
angst.
have our big
I would say to
beginning,
those
middle, and
people
end
that are
of our
out there,
summer, but we will.
get
It's just gonna
educated.
happen, I don't know. And then we're
Don't brush
open
it
to
aside
constructive
and-
feedback from the
No,
people
we're
who
not.
just took their ideas.
No, we're not.
Hear
We're
more
not,
of their
we're not open
stories
to
at
it.
usoinvisiblewounds.org.
Terry, you gotta be
I need to
open.
live in my delusion.
Oh my gosh.
John, you can go get
Welcome back to Recovery Talk Live. This is Dawn Maxwell with my co-host.
Terry Liddell.
And please visit us at recoverytalklive.com. Tell us if you love us. Tell us if you hate us. Tell us if you're sick, because we're sick. We claim never to be healthy well. We are all sick, broken, messed up. Terry always says he's a train wreck on a good day. Right, Terry? How's your train today,
How's my
Terry?
train? My train's actually,
How's your
I'm
train
having
wreck?
fun today.
Are
So
you having fun
my
today?
my train's pretty good.
Yeah, it's because we, had that miraculous combustion. It's like when that blood moon came.
Yeah,
that
something
once in
happened.
a
That was
hemisphere.
weird.
You and
That
I
was
had a
weird.
blood moon moment.
Okay,
That's
so-
what we're going to call it. So we're as sick as you.
You're sick as me?
Codependents are as sick as the addicts. We had
Okay.
an agreement. Codependents, family members numb out in less discreet ways than the overt addict by, shopping addiction, gambling, sex. There's other ways.
So there's less,
Food.
there's
Food was
less,
one.
there's, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's less stigma
less stigma.
attached to your behavior versus mine.
Right, well, we care what other people think because we're not victims, so we do choose things that are not going to stigmatize us. I may be doing this. My thing was food. You know, I've lost 95 pounds. I was a foodie at one decade in my life, and yeah, that was my, socially acceptable way of saying life stinks right now and it hurts and this is how I'm going to deal. But I wasn't labeled.
The rest of us who are out doing strange things, waking up in places we don't recognize with people we don't know, we're looking in our bank account that wasn't supposed to be like that, and the wife can't make the rent this week, and those are socially unacceptable behavior processes. So yeah.
Do you care? I mean, honestly, when you're the addict, and whether you're male or female, and you've spent the money for the rent, and you have people.
Do I feel bad?
Yeah.
Oh, of course I do.
But you use anyway.
Well, of course.
Okay, see, that's the part that all the codependents in the world are going, why?
Because here's the reason that I use. I use because I don't like how I feel. So which is more important? You yelling at me for some reason that I did something wrong, which is true. I spent the rent money. I did something with it. I drank. I crashed the car. There's all kinds of things. And it's like, okay. But unless there's a consequence that I don't like, that I'm willing to change, then it's inconvenient at best.
Right. Okay, I'm loving what you just said on this, because you're right, there has to be a consequence. And again, when I speak, I'm usually speaking because it's true to me too, just like you do, because it's true to you too. It's very easy to put the consequence out there. If this doesn't change, then I got to do this. But holding that boundary,
that's the bigger one.
We let people plow it down in an instant.
Well, here's the thing. It's not a boundary then, because a boundary isn't a boundary unless there's a consequence that's applied at the moment that boundary gets banged into.
Okay, so stay on this thought, because I know how quickly you lose them. So on this thought, you're saying if a family member is listening, okay, and I don't care if it's your child, your spouse, your brother, and you've put them in rehab and you're letting them stay in their house, and you and I both know they're playing the family.
Okay, so I got a client whose son is 25 years old.
Right.
And he is, he's got an addiction problem.
Right.
So what did the parents do?
I'm sure they've put him in treatment a million times. I'm sure they've
tried all kinds of different things. And then the question, and mom says, yeah, but. So now what?
Well, there's no but. The point we're getting to is, okay, so those people, if they keep doing it over and over, don't have a boundary. The healthy person,
where's the boundary?
The boundary is you're on your own. Go find a place to live. Get your own food.
Now, are you willing to do that to, in this case, a 25-year-old? There's the door. We've changed the locks.
I have not had to walk that particular path. I know people who have blown it, and I know people who have done it, and I actually know a woman right now, her son just graduated college because she made that choice. And here's a painful tidbit, another awareness I came to, is that it's just the sickness of fixing somebody. It actually stops that person.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
But you're actually impeding that person's wellness.
So then the process becomes very strange. Can you fix anybody?
No.
Okay, then why are you trying to fix anybody?
Because you're sick as a codependent.
Okay, so
you've acquired the sickness.
Okay, so then the process, though, let's go back to the boundary situation, because this is where I think the rubber meets the road. If I give you a suggestion, if I make a statement, okay, if you don't get a job, I won't feed you.
Right, so then you have to actually not feed the person, or it's lip service.
Okay.
And the addict knows it. And the addict knows it.
Is that a codependent there?
Is it? No, if you're saying, look, you have to set a boundary. I've done this both ways, Terry.
Okay,
I've set the boundary that wasn't real.
Then in codependency, where are boundaries?
Well, here's the thing about a boundary. If you have the real boundary, and I do think it's harder as a parent than with a sibling or a spouse.
Of course it is.
We're a whole different area.
I'm a dad and a grandpa. Of course it's hard.
It's just a whole different playing field, and I haven't had to walk
We'll be
through
thankful.
that. But here's the risk, and I think this is why the codependent people let their boundaries get plowed. You have to know that if you make that boundary, you're out until B happens. If you do that, you have to realize that person may not come back.
But
Just get over your butt, man.
No,
you
because
have
that's
to.
the question that has to get asked. If you are serious about a boundary, because this is really, we're talking about responsibility. We're talking about a lot of the big things here.
But I'm telling you, the risk as a codependent, let me finish, don't go to the victim place, is that you, and this is why we blow it, is once you set the boundary and that person decides, you know what, I like my addict life, I'm moving on, that's a risk you took.
Right.
And codependents are so afraid they keep letting their boundary get plowed because they're afraid that person's going to
Okay, now, let's go back to the other side of me being the alcoholic in this case.
Right.
Is that until somebody gave me a boundary, until there was a consequence that I needed to deal with, I didn't need to deal with it.
Because we weren't strong enough, and you are listening to Recovery Talk Live, please visit us at recoverytalklive.com. That's because you knew that the person in your family or your friend was not strong enough to hold it, so you could.
So I was
over.
smart enough in my stupidity. I was smart enough to marry a codependent.
Thank you for owning that.
Yes.
Right.
So in my journey, I went and found somebody that I could get what I wanted most of the time from.
Right.
Even though they were angry with me, even though they would yell at me, even though a lot of things happened, the consequences, the bottom line, never showed up until very, very late. And I'm going to, the first time I was married was 7.5 years. And it didn't,
until the consequence happened?
Yeah.
And did she set a boundary, and then you chose not to make the choice to get well, and that's how it ended? I don't know.
Front door works both ways.
Okay, so that's what happened.
Yeah. So.
Do you, tell me this?
Sure.
Because, you know, as we're wrapping up our hour, do you, looking back, have regret?
Well, the answer is absolutely do I have regret.
I've always wondered.
But the journey of regret, for me, has no value. I am really sorry, but I've made amends. I've gone back and apologized. I've done my part of the process.
Golden ticket.
I have taken responsibility for my stupidity. The horrible things that I did to people. I've said, you know, will you forgive me? That is what I can do. And then I can be very different today. You know, 24 years of sobriety, I'm not what I used to be in the choices and the behaviors that I make.
But the golden ticket is that, and this is the golden ticket for the codependent, is you went back and make amends. Because as a codependent, whether that relationship re-engages or not, you're living for that moment that somebody has insight to the illness, takes ownership, just like you have to do as a codependent. I don't know, there's something healing in that, so I applaud you for doing
because
that.
Because if there's no healing, then there's no healing. And I mean that on both sides of the street. Because if I'm not working on my sobriety, if I'm not working on, and sobriety right now, I want to understand is an all-inclusive word, regardless of your addiction or your behaviors. But in my sobriety, the choices that I'm making they're pretty darn healthy. They're good. They're valid. They don't cause pain and anguish in people's lives.
And I think what's key to what you're saying, because we don't want to be a hopeless show here at recoverytalklive.com, is that with everybody in treatment, it doesn't have to end the way maybe my marriages have ended, your marriages, or my family relationships. You know, we're not identifying people out there. Everybody getting well, everybody having insight into their illness and taking ownership for their part. You can only do your part.
Right.
There can be healing within a family.
And if you have the desire to make it different, and typically you're going to have people in your life who are more than willing to go on that journey with you because you're cared about. And I think in many ways we lose sight of the fact that people do care about us even when they tell us no. Your behavior's not okay. I can't put up with that anymore.
So when you're sitting there as the addict and the boundary has been held and you know you're out the door and if you know it's probably the last time, what are you thinking? Oh, well there goes a wife and some kids.
In my case, no, it's not that way.
Well, we want to know. I'm speaking of the voice of the codependent.
I'm angry, number one.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to be angry at you, I'm going to be angry at me, I'm going to be angry at an awful lot of things because anger is how we deal with stuff in our addictions anyway. I'm disappointed, I'm sad. I mean, there's a whole myriad, if you will, of emotions and feelings I'm going to be running through in a given moment. So that's really what we're looking at. So the idea in this process is very simple for me.
Yes.
Be responsible.
Be responsible. Everybody has to have insight and ownership to their own stuff.
Allow people to care for you.
Yes.
That's a scary thought.
It's a scary thought, but, you know, people might be just, you know, we're both further in the journey. So to the listener, I would say, first of all, you and I do not think we're perfect. We don't think we have it together.
We don't?
No. And they do know that I'm right and you're wrong, and they go with that, and they still come back. And do like us on Facebook, because we have no friends, and we were really trying to get up to 12 listeners, and visit us at recoverytalklive.com. But the thing is about us, you know, love us or hate us, is we are real with where we're at.
I think that's, the more real you are, the less you have to hide.
Right. Because is life even worth it if you're wearing a mask
Well,
I can't
for some
even
people,
stand it.
absolutely. You know, we have
It's
our.
a facade.
Well, of course it is. But if I can hide behind that and I look good on the front side, and you don't get to see the back side of that, which is all the uglies. And it's one of the things that I had to learn in my journey of recovery was pretty simple. This is me. This is me. This is me. End of sentence.
Okay, but there's hope. The point is, we like to pay the healing forward.
Right.
So you and I say there's hope in the healing. I mean, there's hope wherever you are. If you're out there today and your loved one is just, you think you can't do anything anymore, it's not too late. It's not too late for you. There's hope for you. Get yourself into treatment. Don't worry about the other person. I would say that's a takeaway
I think you got a good one
on
here.
this. Anything final?
That's 3 times we've agreed.
I'm afraid for us.
Thanks for a great day.
It's been a great day. Sarah stayed with us the whole time. Nobody had to put oxygen on it. Remember, you're only as sick as your secrets. We want to hear them. Go to recoverytalklive.com. We'll get back to you. And have a great day. You know what? I use up all my airtime. Until she goes to 10 seconds, I keep talking to not waste it. Yeah, we did it. We did it. Good or bad?
You do okay?
You great.
You got one extra like on Facebook.
Wow.
You had one person that was listening to you.
How often do we have to beg?
What a crack up.
I'm telling you.